Our top story, fierce fighting continues in Sudan's capital Khartoum despite an hours-long pause to help those caught up in the violence. The clashes that started on Saturday between the armed forces and the paramilitary rapid support forces, it's killed nearly 100 civilians, including 3 UN workers. According to the residents, the army, it had carried out airstrikes on RSF bases and managed to destroy most of their facilities. A traveller in Sudan also recounted seeing people flee Khartoum as the country's military and the paramilitary forces struggle for power.
A lot of people, they are going by walking, they are going with their bags. Many of the people, they are loading the stuff from supermarket, they are going in their car, and many of them, they were hitchhiking in another vehicles to escape the city.
UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has condemned these clashes, demanding swift justice over the killings of 3 UN workers and asserted on how the parties need to respect international law, including the obligation to ensure the safety and security of all United Nations and associated personnel. Meanwhile, Sudan's former Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok also urged the warring sides to end fighting between the Sudan's army and the paramilitary group.
رسالتي الأولى للفريق أول عبد الفتاح البرهان وقادة الجيش السوداني وللفريق أول محمد حمدان دقلو وقادة الدعم السريع: يجب أن يتوقف الرصاص فورا، ويجب أن يحكم صوت العقل، فالخسارة ستكون من نصيب الجميع ولا يوجد منتصر على جثث شعبه.
Now, the chairman of the African Union will also be travelling to Sudan to mediate a ceasefire, expressing deep concerns about the situation here. The AU also called on the forces of the 2 generals in charge of Sudan to protect civilians. The World Food Programme also said that it was suspending operations in Sudan after the killing of the 3 workers here. The battle between the powerful armed forces and the rapid support forces, it's also sparked an international outcry, including border closures by neighbours Egypt and Chad. Now, for better understanding, we will be looking at the following aspects of the current situation in Sudan: the 2 military factions, the rivalry that has come to fore between the 2, the timeline of what has transpired so far, and we will also be assessing what is truly at stake here. The first question: what are the 2 warring factions in the Sudanese military and who leads them? Now, one faction, it's comprised of the country's ruler and regular armed forces led by General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan. In effect, he is the president of the country. The second faction is the paramilitary rapid support forces, who are led by General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, better known as Hemeti. The second question: what are the major issues the 2 factions are fighting over? The 2 factions are largely at loggerheads over 4 issues. That is, the redeployment of the RSF around the country, which is seen by the armed forces as a threat. The setting up of a civilian-led democratic government and the plan to include the 100,000-strong RSF into the army, something which the RSF and Hemeti do not desire. The handover of lucrative military holdings in agriculture and trade as well, which has led to disagreements between the 2 factions. Let's also give you a brief background of what led to the fighting between the 2 factions here. The fighting between the 2 top Sudanese generals began in 2019 after they ousted President al-Bashir in a military coup. Civilians demanded that the country move to democratic rule led by citizens, but efforts to transition into a fully functioning democracy failed and a joint military and civilian government was established. Fast forward to October 2021, another coup overthrew the joint civilian-military government. In 2022, a framework deal to put power back in the hands of civilians was agreed upon. But in December, talks to finalize this deal also failed. In April 2023, the redeployment of the RSF was seen as a threat by the army. Violence broke out in the capital city of Khartoum and other parts of the country. As per reports, the death toll from the violence, it's nearing 100. Former Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok has called for a ceasefire and said a return to dictatorship is never acceptable. The fourth question here: what is at stake in the region? Sudan is located in North Africa. It is in a strategically key location in a volatile part of the region. Its agricultural wealth has led to multiple attempts to take control of the nation. Geopolitical factors are also at play here, with Russia, the United States, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates and other powers battling for influence here. The volatile nature of the region, coupled with radical influence and insurgency, are causes for concern, of course, since an escalating conflict in Sudan could destabilize other parts of Africa as well. Now, for more on this, we're joined by Michael Atid, live from Khartoum. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, to begin with, what is your opinion of the current situation in Sudan?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me this morning. This is the third day of the conflict in Sudan, and it has been the 2 consecutive sleepless nights for many residents of Khartoum and the other cities around the country. And because the fighting continued and the battling continued, especially around the installation, the essential areas such as the military headquarters, the presidential palace, and the Khartoum International Airport. As I speak, the gunfire and the bomb are still being heard around that area. And according to the social media, we could hear a lot of claims and counter-claims between the 2 rival forces on those locations. Life seems to have been crippled down for many citizens. They are trying to access other services such as, health facilities and groceries to buy basic needs and basic food and all. But it seems to be very difficult for them due to the roadblocks and the tense situation on the ground as well. So that is how the situation is for the last 3 days. We have witnessed a lot of reports from the Sudanese medical doctors about the death toll that has been increased to more than 70, and more than 100 also got injured. That is not all in Khartoum. That also includes other states, including the western region of Darfur as well. So since yesterday, last evening, there was an agreement to create a safe corridor for about 250 students who have been caught up in a Catholic school within the downtown. And there were also few number of journalists, more than 10 journalists, who were also caught up in an office space which is located near the presidential palace. So we are about to witness, Sudan is about to witness a serious issue with the humanitarian crisis if the battling continues in the coming hours.
Now, absolutely. In fact, I also wanted to know the central causes of tension since the uprising is the civilian demand for oversight of the military and integration of the RSF into the armed forces. What would you say are some of the other reasons for tensions here?
The other, everything is rooted in the political interest. Everything, like all the main cause, an umbrella of all this chaos is rooted in a political interest. Okay, the army has been playing a major part, a major role of trying to bring the civilians together and try to organize them, especially after the coup of October 2021. Al-Burhan was saying these civilians are divided among themselves. That is why he took over. And he wanted them to organize themselves and come back again so that they're able to continue with the civilian government. But that never happened. What happened is Al-Burhan took over together with the support of his rival Himeti, the commander of RSF. They took over, but then they also went and disagreed among themselves. So now we have 2 disagreements from the different 2-3 groups, and that's what led the country into chaos. Burhan wanted to have 2 years of a transition, and the 2 years, and during this period, the RSF should be reintegrated into Sudan Army, including other armed forces as well. But then the RSF commander say the 2 years period is very little. They want at least 10 years of a transition, of a period for his forces to be reintegrated into one army. So these divisions happen, and this disagreement took them far from each other. That is why last week RSF started mobilizing his troops from the far west region of Darfur to bring them to Khartoum and to other cities, including the far north in Merawi, and which led to this situation where we are in now.
All right. Well, Michael, let's also talk about the regional power play that's involved here due to Sudan's strategic location and, of course, agricultural wealth as well. Would you say that that has complicated the situation further? What do you reckon could be a solution for this?
Yeah, it is true that regional bodies, regional countries also have some influence, somehow influence within the country. Some country, including Egypt and Saudi Arabia and the Emirates, they seem to be supporting the military, supporting the military rule. So when former Prime Minister Hamdok was in power, he was also, he won the confidence of the European Union, the international community and all. So as they were ruling the past transition period, they were like, okay, two different governments with two different supports, regional support, international support, and so kind of. So those also has contributed so much into the situation where Sudan is at the moment. There has been quite a little bit effort from the African Union and from the East African bloc called IGAD to try to resolve and bring the parties together and resolve the current crisis and the political deadlock in the country. The United Nations mission in Sudan also tried to team up with the African Union and the IGAD together, what formed what so-called trilateral mechanism. They've been so much also, trying to support the process, which led to the signing of the political framework agreement in December last year, and which demanded actually the reintegration of the forces, the 2 years period of transition. That is the situation.
All right. Michael, thank you so much for joining us on this broadcast with all your insights on this.
Turmoil in Sudan. Power struggle between the army and the paramilitary. Tanks, jets, and artillery deployed as hundreds are caught in the crossfire. Continuous coverage on WION, World is One.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.